Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is Two Catholic Dudes, and my name is Ryan Klaus.
My name is Danny Cleary.
As always, we're not priests, we're not theologians, we're just two Catholic dudes, and we're talking about our faith.
And today we have got something interesting for all of you guys. Something that we said as a joke to each other over text messages that then we thought, you know what?
We don't have any other ideas, so let's do that. No, I'm just kidding.
This is the bottom of the barrel. No, but we thought, you know what? Let's give it a try, because here's the thing about this podcast and about faith in general. I think that you got to take chances when spreading the gospel.
You got to stand out.
You got to stand out, because not everyone is going to see it eye to eye the way you want.
That's right.
You got to get out on the open road, stand out, and spread the gospel. So today, the two Catholic dudes are doing our first, hopefully, of a new kind of, we added scripture study with the two Catholic dudes to this season, and we're hoping as well to add movie analysis, where we kind of watch a movie that probably most people would think there's nothing to do with God in that movie, and we try to find ways that we can look for God in the movie, find themes that maybe weren't intended by the director or whoever.
Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but we don't know.
Intended to be about God, but we want to look at everything. Look for God in everything. Look for God in the, what was the word you used?
Unexpected places.
And so today, if you didn't get the references and the jokes we made earlier,
before 2 or 3 hours ago, I would not have gotten those references either. I just saw this movie 2 hours ago.
Yeah. So Ryan, what movie are we doing?
This is going to be a goofy podcast, y'all. We are doing a goofy movie from 1995.
One of the best movies of all time.
You would always say that, just like you talk about Balto. And now I might have to take that Balto reference seriously, because Goofy movie was legit. So I apologize, Danny. It took me to watch.
It's all right.
Sometimes you trust these sources on YouTube, these people that, like your tutorials that I watch.
Yeah, like why trust your friend for 10 years? Trust the YouTube video you watched for 10 minutes.
This guy, he has a music channel. Channel is called Sideways. He does like movie analysis, and he breaks down the musical elements and themes in the movie. And he does a lot of Disney movies. He's done pretty much all of them, and he decided to do a Goofy movie. And he was like, I just rewatched this, and he's like, I'm pretty sure it's the best Disney movie of all time. And I was like, what? Why have I never seen this? I barely heard about it in 1995, and
didn't get a lot of push.
It was the year right after Lion King, so maybe it was just
it was just like the
afterthought movie, and everyone's like, oh well, how can you follow the Lion King? And it looks it's more cartoony. The Lion King is more like, well, real for 1994 animation. Like whoa, and then this is like, oh, it's just like a cartoon,
Yeah.
So maybe people didn't give it a chance.
But little do they know,
there is so much there, you guys.
We're gonna dive in and we're gonna go and analyze this movie and look for the cool. As we were watching it, we kept looking at each other and going, that right there, that could be God. Everything. Or God could be in that moment, or when has God spoken to us in this scenario? So we're gonna dive into all the ways that we saw God in this movie. But just as a movie, if you're looking right now, there's a lot of, like we were talking off recording,
off camera, as they say.
Right now, there's so much, just nonsense in movies and television and music. It's disgusting. But you know what? A good, wholesome movie you can watch with the whole family will enjoy is a Goofy movie.
A Goofy movie. So we sat down and we watched this movie at 2 p.m. with intention to do this podcast, right? So we were actively looking for God in this movie.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to just watch it and be like, oh, shoot, let's do a podcast on it. What do we want to say? I don't know. We were trying to be prepared for once. We didn't take notes, but that's our style. We're going to go off the cuff. Luckily, Danny's seen this movie who knows how many times, right? So this was my first time, but I'm going to rely on you to kind of walk us through.
Totally.
The spoiler alert. This is the first time, like, officially we're saying spoiler alert. So
spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it and you want to, go watch the movie. Actually, if you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend go watch a Goofy movie. I'm sure you can find the whole thing on YouTube. If you have Disney Plus, it's on there. Go watch it. And then come back and
take
give
your
a listen.
own notes.
Yeah.
How do you see God in this movie? How do you see our spirituality and faith represented in the themes of this movie? So come up with those on your own. Actively look for them, and then listen to this podcast and compare and contrast. See if you think we're right. If you think you have a differing view, and throw it in the comments. Where do you think we went awry? Where do you think we agree?
And if you've already seen this movie and you're listening right now and you're like, guys, are you kidding me? You can't be out of ideas like this.
Totally, we are. No.
Give us a chance, and let's see if we can change your mind about how much God spoke to us. Just two friends watching this movie, how much God spoke to us in this movie.
That's right. And the last note before we really dive in was that I often don't see religious themes in movies because I'm not looking for it. I'm looking for an opportunity to turn my brain off for 2 hours and just enjoy an action flick or whatever, and just a chance to unplug, right? But we have to actively pursue God just as much as He's always pursuing us. So we can find Him in everywhere in our world. That's, again, what our podcast is about. Yep. So I think it's cool that we're trying this out. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. So I think let's just walk through the movie and just kind of break down, maybe not scene for scene, but like the major acts and the themes in each part, right? So again, spoiler alert, if you're back with us, here we go. Let's do it.
So the movie opens right with Max. The premise of the movie is Max, the main character, is Goofy's son, is trying to win the heart of this girl that he likes, but he's just trying to fit in. He's trying to be popular. He's trying to make his mark, find out who he is. He's trying to find his identity. That's the whole premise of the movie, is Max, Goofy's son, trying to find his identity.
Well, the movie begins with the dream sequence.
So I'll get to that. So Max is trying to find his identity, whereas Goofy, his dad, is trying to hold on to his relationship with his son. So the cool part, we'll get into this, what we think, but I like this movie because there's not really a villain. Each main character, Goofy and Max, is they're the hero at some points, but the villain in other points.
And I want to touch on that once we get to it, but this is where the guy from the channel Sideways turned me on to this. Let me talk about it before, because you can kind of think of if you understand these themes when we're going through the movie, everything makes sense in terms of the protagonist and antagonist. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Right? So he was breaking it down based on musical numbers and everything, right? So in Disney movies especially, and musicals, their musical numbers serve functions to help drive the story. So normally at the beginning of every musical, there's a song that establishes the world that you're in, right? And then at some point there's an I Want song, and that song describes what the main character, the protagonist desires, what their mission is, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish. This movie is unique in many different ways, but so the opening number kind of does both of those things at once. It's the world building song. Mm-hmm. It establishes the world that we're in. It's this cartoon world and whatever, and all the characters in it, and it also establishes what Max wants to do, right?
But before we dive to that, let's go back to the very beginning real quick.
Okay.
So it starts with, we talked about the premise of the movie is Max trying to find his identity, which I think all of us can relate to. Everybody just wants to find out who they are or who they're called to be. But so in this dream, Max is with the girl of his dreams, right? Roxanne is her name, my Disney crush. And he, in the dream, starts becoming his dad.
Like the teeth pop out, and she was about to kiss him in the dream. Yeah. I thought he was gonna wake up and his dog was kissing him or something like that. That's classic. Oh yeah, that'd be weird, huh?
What pet would a dog have? His human kissed him?
That's what pet would I don't know.
But then again, Pluto's a dog,
right?
And Mickey has Pluto, but Goofy's his best friend.
It's a weird world.
What a world. Anyway, moving on. But so he becomes his dad. His worst fear is becoming his dad.
Yeah.
In that scene, right?
Because his dad's embarrassing.
His dad is, just always kind of on his case, trying to be in his life, and he's trying to be his own thing. He's trying to be his own person, and he thinks that if he becomes his dad, nobody will like him, right? Because his dad is Goofy. That's the premise, is that everybody thinks his dad is your dad's Goofy.
He's just a goof.
And I think in that sense of where we first saw this is, I think from a Christian point of view, sometimes when people are when you have really religious parents or really religious, that's where your upbringing is. The last thing you want to do is I don't want to be uberly religious, because everybody thinks of me as the holier than thou, super religious person, because I don't want to be that. I don't want to be what my parents are. So I've seen with that in teens so many times.
Yeah.
That I don't want to be super religious because that's what my parents are. I want to find my own way. I want to be me. So I think that right at the get-go, this is 5 seconds into this movie, you can already relate to it. And you're like, what? Holy moly. So he wakes up, from this nightmare and realizes, okay, he's late for school. He gets the phone call like, you got to get to school. And then you introduce.
And then the power of love hits and he's riding the skateboard to school.
Wrong movie.
Oh, man, we could do another. That's our next one. Okay, let's go.
So then Goofy comes in. His dad comes into the room and he's being all embarrassing and he's vacuuming and he's, hey, are you ready for school? And blah, blah, blah.
But he's trying to help him. The first thing he comes in, he goes, do you have any clothes that I could clean or iron for you? Can I clean up your room?
Yeah, he's immediately trying to help. The whole movie, Goofy's trying to help.
Yeah.
And Max is just, get away from me.
Right.
Or it's do it for me. It's either get away from me or you can do it, but you can do the work here, but I gotta go.
Oh yeah, he was like, oh look, here's all clothes, I gotta go.
Yeah, and that's a theme that we'll come back to later, but it's all that is, I know you want to help, but I gotta go over here. So you can stay here and help, but I'm leaving.
And you know what Goofy did? He smiled, he laughed about it, and he's like, okay, I love you, son. And he started picking up his clothes. I'm pretty sure as that scene ended, right?
Well, he vacuums the sign and messes up
it's Goofy.
But essentially.
Yeah.
So then Max goes out, goes to walk to school, and then going back to the music that you were talking about.
So yeah, then the big musical number hits, right?
Happens.
And so then we get the establishing number combined with his I Want song. So you find out his desires. And again, that's what you were talking about. He just wants to fit in. He wants to be cool. He wants to join all the rest of the secular society, right?
Yeah.
He wants to
be seen as a big deal. He wants to get noticed.
Right.
But in the movie, the way that he's going to go about doing it, we find out isn't exactly how to do it. But
right.
So his plan is he sings a song, after today, she's going to finally, the girl will notice me. And how he does it is he dresses up like this famous pop star.
And go on.
But he dresses up like Powerline is the name of the pop star. I have like 3 Goofy Movie shirts, and I brought none of them for the Goofy Movie podcast.
FYI, this is our 4th podcast that we're filming in 2 days. We're doing a marathon right now to get all these.
People like that explains why you're talking about the Goofy Movie.
This is number 4. We're trying to do one more before we go to
the
March for Martyrs tomorrow, which is probably like 4 weeks ago at this point. If you're listening
back.
This scene was really annoying for me because Pauly Shore was one of the characters in that movie.
The cheese guy.
And I was like, you gotta just get off screen. So don't hang out with Pauly Shore, because when you hang out with Pauly Shore or his on-screen cartoon character equivalent, bad things happen.
Yeah.
Right, but there's some symbolism and some metaphors in there, right?
Right. So it goes off, and it's a last day of school. It's like an auditorium situation, and him and his friends Jerry rig up this performance where he lip syncs the Powerline song, and the song is actually called Stand Out.
And bro, I was like, I even told you, I was like, this is gonna be a disaster.
Yeah,
he's gonna come out, everyone's gonna laugh at him, but like,
no, it completely works.
Everyone was like digging it. And his dance moves were on point. It was awesome. He
just came to life and does his performance, and the crowd goes wild. And it's ironic though that the song he's singing is Stand Out.
Yes,
like the lyrics are stand out above the crowd, even if you have to shout out loud. That's the point. But at the same time, oddly enough, him trying to stand out was by hiding who he was. And I think that's a big point. He
put on the sunglasses, and no one knew who he was.
Nobody knew. You can hear a point where he's flying around and people are like, who is that? Who is this guy? And so he gets busted. The song kind of falls apart.
The glasses come off, and they realize who it is.
And people go, "Oh, it's the goof guy." It's Max, and he gets in trouble.
But also, he super impressed Roxanne in that moment.
He did, but he gets in trouble. They figure out who he is, and then he's, sitting in the principal's office, yada yada yada, and then we're done seeing Max for a while. But that moment of that he wanted to put himself out there by being somebody else. That was that's what he thought he needed to do to be noticed, was be somebody that he wasn't.
And it's that contradiction of you're literally singing to stand out and you're hiding. And this movie's got a lot of contradictions, just like God is so, there's so much contradictory nature to God, with things we think it should be this way, and he flips it, where we least expect it. And I think this movie has a lot of those traits and those characteristics to it.
Totally. So then we pan to Goofy. Now, Ryan and I both agreed that we think that Goofy, and this is not a disrespectful to God or anything, but we thought that Goofy in this movie really had a lot of representation of God the Father. Because in this movie, Goofy is a loving, caring father the whole way through the movie, from start to finish. And we'll get into even deeper why we found that. But we get to the point where Goofy is he's like a kid's photographer, like the mall. And everyone keeps commenting how great he is with kids because he's patient and he's willing to do whatever it takes to make the kids happy.
The kid wouldn't smile, and he was doing whatever it took, and the little
squeak
toy goes in his throat, and like he could have flipped out, but he used that opportunity and he made that kid smile and laugh. But he was always, and even when Pete, his boss, came over and like got mad at him, he was just like laughing it off, and he's just like, well, I made this kid happy, so it's all good.
And then they have this moment where he's trying to figure out how he can reconnect with his son. How can Goofy and Max reconnect? And Goofy gets to the point of, I'm going to take him on a trip. I'll take him fishing. If we go away for a while, him and I together, we've got to reconnect, right? And I looked at that and I went, retreat.
This movie is a retreat right here.
This movie is a retreat. And like Goofy is so hyped about this retreat to the point where he leaves work, right? And then before we get to the point where he gets a phone call from Max's principal.
Yeah, which was like super dark.
Super dark. It's one of the funniest parts of the movie, but it's super dark. As a kid, you're like,
your kid's going to jail.
No, he's going to wind up in the electric chair.
In the electric chair. I was like, what?
But so Goofy knows that Max did wrong. He knows that Max did wrong. But he goes, you know what? I'm going to take him on this trip. Because if we reconnect, that's better than me. I could yell and scream at him. But I want to take him on this trip. But we find out that Max, his whole performance and everything, got the attention of the girl he liked. So he didn't want to go on the trip.
Well, yeah, because so...
And then, right, he doesn't want to go on the trip with Goofy because he wants to stay home and go on a date with the girl that he likes because he got her attention with his whole parade. So, but Goofy's like, nope, you're going on this trip. We're going on this retreat. We're going on this fishing trip. And he's like, I'm not going. And I saw it like how many times where we have those scenes of, I'm absolutely not going. Goofy's like, oh, you're going. And he's like, and Goofy tries every level
literally
of
kicking and screaming.
Yeah,
throwing him into the car.
Buckles him in.
He's got the life vest popped out, and he's just like throwing him in the car. And he's like, whatever he can do to get him in that car.
Yeah, and then Max has to... he's like, well, fine, I'll go on your trip, but I have to go tell my girl the date that I'm not going to be able to do that. So they go to the house where Roxanne, the girl, is, and he has to tell her, like, I can't go on the date. And because Max is trying to be cool, he ends up lying to the girl and says he's not going fishing with his dad. He's not going to spend time with his dad, but his dad is taking him to the Powerline concert in Los Angeles.
Because Goofy, apparently...
It was in a band.
It was in a band with Powerline. That was the lie. So,
but he lies.
He lies. He got in deeper when telling the truth would have just alleviated the situation. But
so he started now got the girl's attention by not being himself, and then he lied. Those are the two big things, right? And now he's got to go on this trip with his dad. Okay, so then. They head off on the trip.
So here's where this is where before I even saw the movie, I saw the commentary from a musical standpoint from this guy's channel Sideways, right? And he's analyzing all the parts of a musical. And in almost every musical, especially almost every Disney musical, you get the bad guy song, right?
The bad guy song.
You got the Scar song.
Think of Scar.
You got Ursula.
The Nunchback and Notre Dame guy's got a song. Every bad guy's got a song.
And they explain
their motives
and how they're going to stop the hero's journey, how they're going to be the antagonist, right?
Their evil plan.
But so who's the antagonist in this movie? So this song right here, in a classical sense of the Disney musical canon, serves that purpose, because in not our theological sense right here, but in just movie sense, the Goofy is the antagonist because he's stopping he's stopping Max from accomplishing his goals. He wants to stay home and he wants to go on the date with the girl, but he's pulling him away from that.
Yeah.
And so he's literally singing how he's going to do that by going on the open road and fishing and doing all this. And Max is like, are you kidding me? Like, so for Max, he's the bad guy.
Right.
So everything is backwards, it's nothing like the normal bad guy song that we would get, because this is a goofy movie and everything's weird and we're in this
right, because and I would argue that just like we talked about in life, that I think that in some areas of the movie Max is the bad guy and in other and Goofy is the bad, like that, because and in both in our life some days we're the good guy and some days because of our actions we're the bad guy.
Right. Well, so after seeing the movie, because you were like arguing against me when I was saying that. So, but musically, that's what serves the normal classical function of the bad guy song. But when we're talking about what are the themes and who really is the antagonist and protagonist, you were absolutely right. And once I watched it, I was like, yes, Max is the bad guy, because he thinks that he's a good guy. He thinks that his hero's journey...
He's the hero of his own story.
Right, yeah. He's the hero of his own story. He wants to do what he wants to do, but he wants to move further away from God.
Absolutely.
And he's making God the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because his vision isn't aligned.
Yes.
His vision is not aligned with God's. So where he wants to go is the opposite. So he's thinking that God's the bad guy. So in this moment, that is the bad guy song from Max's point of view.
Yes. And so that's the thing is, so... Another big part of this movie, and we're going to get into that now, is they get on the open road and Goofy has a map, and it's the map that's going to take them to where they're going. They're going fishing. And he has the map all drawn out, and he said that this map is, he used the same map with his dad and all this other stuff in it.
The goofs before the goofs.
The map is so important to him. And this map is going to get them there. This map is you can trust the map.
And you know what the map looked like?
A disaster.
You guys have seen those memes where it says your plan, your map or whatever, it's a straight line, and it goes God's plan for you, and it goes every which way, and it goes circles back, and it goes down. That's what this map looked like. Yeah. There's something there. It's
something there for sure. So, but the map is the key. So Goofy's like, we got to trust the map. I got a plan. We're going to get there. Trust me, this fishing trip is going to be great. And Max says, I don't want to go on this fishing trip. So they're on the open road and ends up, then they get into a whole bunch of shenanigans.
They're singing nuns on
There are nuns with guitars.
There's nuns with guitars. Trads way
in 1995.
Nuns with guitars.
In a Disney movie.
Cruising down the road. Also, there's a dead guy that comes out of a coffin and starts singing in this whole, so there's something there with,
It's a cartoon. There's dead people.
God's raising the dead even in this little cartoon song and dance, right?
So
sometimes you look a little too deep at this stuff.
So anyways, we go to all kinds of rigmarole on their little journey, and Goofy is just the most embarrassing of all time. He takes Max to puppet shows and all kinds of...
Yeah, that puppet show is weird.
But it's just like... it's like there's obviously filler stuff in the movie, and
Not everything is...
Not everything we could go, oh yeah, God's there. We're not going to be that ridiculous. But so they have this whole rigmarole, and they go on this big, long trip. And eventually, while they're sitting camping, and Max is the point of all the places they go, Max's attitude is awful the whole time. He doesn't want to be there. He's not. Goofy is so positive and like, look at how great this is. Look at how fun this can be. Give me a chance to show you that this relationship is amazing. And Max is fighting him tooth and nail. I don't want to be near you. There's a scene where Goofy's like, where are you going? And Max is like, away from you.
And like, no matter what, like you couldn't break Goofy's spirit. He's like, okay,
yeah, I'll be back. I'll be there in a second. And it's that sense of like the optimism of God is that God just yearns to be in our life. And how many times have we been, Max, of get away from me? I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to be around you.
You're embarrassing me.
You're embarrassing
me,
God. Living my faith is embarrassing. Being a goof is embarrassing in the sense of Max and Goofy. Being a Christian, being a follower of God is embarrassing. I don't want to do it. It was so clear when we were watching. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So then we get to the point where...
Wait. What about the scene in the hot tub with Pete?
We haven't gotten there yet.
We haven't gotten there yet. So you know the storyline more than I do. I just watched this movie.
So then we get to the point where then they're camping. Max and Goofy are camping, and Max is mad that he doesn't want to go there. And the big RV pulls up, and it's their friends, Pete and his son.
Just a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah, and his son. And Pete's got the big RV, and he's
he's got all the worldly things pulling up.
Everything worldly that he's got, and he treats his son more like an employee than a son. He's like, and he keeps telling Goofy, you need to be stricter. You need to have your son under your thumb. Pete is just the epitome of a troll, a Facebook troll in this movie.
We skipped over that really quick, but like, I'm just thinking of it as we say it out loud. Goofy and Max are camping with literally a single old school tent.
Yeah.
So they're on retreat, and Goofy's trying to teach him to unplug from the world, unplug from modern society, unplug from everything that you know.
Well, the first line of Open Road is, "Do you need a break from modern living?"
Yeah, we were gonna play the song, but I don't want to play.
Go listen to it.
Copywritten material,
a Goofy movie album.
Yeah. Do you need a break from modern living? And so they're literally camping with this single tent. If you want to go on retreat, how are you gonna encounter God if you got your phone, if you got your tablet, if you got everything modern and you're bringing that with you?
Yeah.
You're not going to, right?
Exactly.
But then Pete and his son come up, and literally it's this scene, and it takes like 30 seconds where the camper pulls up, and like a pool comes out, and a
bowling alley,
and it all opens up to everything in this world. They're trying to retreat, but they're bringing the world with them, so it's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
So go on to his point. He's being a troll, really.
Well, he's just being mean, and he's telling Goofy that he needs to be stricter, and he needs to be harsher, and he needs to tell Max what to do, and he can't let Max just walk all over him, and all this stuff. And Max is kind of like, let's stay with Pete and them in this nice RV and everything else. And Goofy's like, no, you and I are doing our own thing. So
theologically, some things don't line up exactly, but I think there's some themes there, about free will, because people say, well, why does evil happen in the world or whatever? But I think it's because God loves us so much that we talked about this before, and you hear this all over the place, that he doesn't want to be a puppeteer. If like Pete says, if you have him under your thumb,
right,
it's not true love because you're controlling them. You're you're puppeting them.
Yeah.
Right. So you let them choose.
Goofy just wants Max to love him because he's his dad.
Exactly.
And Pete is treating his son like, no, I'm forcing him to love me and be my son.
Right.
And that's the difference in father figures in the movie.
Right.
And so anyway,
the other thing about Pete, I don't know if you get it here or in the next scene with him, is that, like you said, he's just kind of a troll.
He's a troll. He's mean. He's looking for the negative in the world.
He thinks he knows better than you.
Yeah.
And he wants to tell you and shove it down your throat.
He's like Instagram influencers that we know.
Yeah.
He's just the embodiment of that in a cartoon.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that whole thing happens. And then Max and Goofy decide to go to practice fishing, and they do this thing where the best part, one of my favorite parts of the movie, is Goofy has this thing called the perfect cast.
The perfect cast.
Where he does this crazy thing and then goes, and of course he shoots his hook back and he hooks the steak that Pete is cooking and throws it into the water, and then they end up attracting Bigfoot.
Of course, Bigfoot's in this movie.
Because why would he not be in this movie? So Bigfoot gets the smell of the steak and chases him, and then Max and Goofy are like pulling in, and they think it's a fish, and they're videotaping it, and it's Bigfoot, and then they freak out and they run to the car, and then they're trapped in the car, right?
So wait, as they're running, I want to say this point here. As they're running to the car, you know what Goofy is doing? Everyone else is running away. He's trying to get the shot because he's been vlogging this trip, and he's like, I am not going to miss this shot. We got Bigfoot running after me. He's running in reverse saying, we got Bigfoot here on camera. And so we're still trying to do a vlog this weekend or 3 weeks ago whenever you're watching this. Yeah. Hopefully we will have vlogged at March for the Martyrs. So we always want to get the shot. Just like if we don't take a break right now, we're going to miss the shot. So we'll be right back.
Okay, so he gets the shot, and they're in the car hiding from Bigfoot. Bigfoot's tearing through their luggage. He's messing them up. But now Goofy and Max.
But he's also like messing with them strangely.
He's
doing like a puppet show for them.
He's a cartoon, yeah. Okay. But yeah, he puts socks on and he's pretending he's doing a puppet show for them and stuff. Anyway,
maybe that goes back to the puppeteer thing we were talking about a moment ago. Who knows?
Maybe not. I think that's trying too hard for analogies. But so they're in the car and they're trapped. Now they're forced to kind of talk to each other. Right? And now I feel like this is where they went on this retreat, right? This is where they have that moment. We talk about retreats, and there's a lot of times on a retreat where there's a moment where you really go, okay, like I get it.
But what did it take to make that happen?
Well, right.
Go on.
They went through this crazy experience with Bigfoot, trapped in the car, and now they're in the car. And Goofy's talking on and on about the map and how important it is, and then they realize, oh, they're hungry, and they find alphabet soup, and Goofy goes on and says, you used to say things in your alphabet soup, like, hi, Dad, or it was called Hi, Dad soup, or I love you, Dad, and you would do this in your soup, and Max was like, it's awkward. It's super awkward in the movie, where they're just kind of like, okay, cool. And then, Goofy hands him the soup, and this is where Max kind of starts to come around. He starts to realize, like, this isn't so bad after all, spending time with my dad. And my dad means well. He wants the best for me. To be there for me. So Max ends up writing Hi, Dad, and giving it to his dad. And that is like the first outreach to his dad, first outreach to his father. And I've seen it so many times in young people at the church and all of us in our life. When is that first moment in our life where we reached out to God? Where we reached out and said, hey, God, like, I'm here. I don't know how to express that I want you in my life, but I'm here and I'm interested in it. And that's what that was for Max.
You might not have all the words to express to God yet, but you just go like, God, like, what's on my heart.
It's that acknowledgement. Yeah. That was all it was. It wasn't Max coming out and saying like, okay, Dad, let's have a great trip. I was a jerk and now we're going to have the best time ever. It was simply, hi, Dad. Simple acknowledgement that I'm going to try to make an effort to make this trip good.
Yeah.
That acknowledgement, I'm trying to make my relationship with you better, God. Really, really awesome scene. So then we get to the point where Goofy falls asleep and Bigfoot falls asleep and the snoring is happening and Max is awake. He's awake in the car, bloodshot. Yeah. And he starts to write the note back to Roxanne admitting that he lied. He starts to feel guilty for what he did. The guilt starts to come that, you probably never want to talk to me again, Roxanne, because I lied. I'm not going to the concert. Like, I'm just spending time with my dad, and he's angry, and he keeps rewriting it, and he ends up banging the door or the glove box of the car, and the glove box opens and the map comes out.
So before we find out what he does, he's conflicted in this scene, right? Because for us, we have that momentary encounter with God, and we find we're being pulled in that direction.
Yeah.
But we haven't been fully. We're torn between our two worlds, right?
Yeah.
And we always will be.
Right.
But like, he wasn't ready to give up on that. So he's like, he knows that he did wrong, and he's ready to admit it, but he can't quite do it. And then the glove compartment opens, and the colors scheme, it goes from like a cool blue to all of a sudden it's like bright red. Obviously, like, it's that temptation
because the map comes out and the pencil rolls right into his hand, and he has the chance now, the opportunity to erase the path that his dad wrote for him and draw his own. Draw what he wants, not what his father wants.
Right. And
he wants to do what he wants to do.
And so what does he do? He rips up
his admission of guilt.
He throws it out the window. He decides not to say he's sorry yet.
Yeah, not admit fault.
And he changes that map.
He changes the map. He changes it to what he wants. He tries to take control. He wants to decide where to go. He wants to decide what's best.
Yeah. So he goes, you know what, God, I appreciate this moment we've had. Us in our lives. I appreciate this moment. I appreciate the fact that I see that you're there now, and I see that you want the best for me, but I want what I want.
I want to do what I want.
I want to do what I want, and that's the definition of sin.
Yep.
That's the definition of sin. How many times do we come back to the Father and then say, no, what, this seems more enticing. This path is more enticing for me. This is what I want to do, so I don't care what you want.
Yes.
So this is that moment of sin, even though they had that door was open, but he quickly kind of went the other direction, right?
Right. So he changes the map, and he closes it up, and no one knows. So eventually, Bigfoot goes off along his way, and they end up at a diner for breakfast the next morning. And Max, you can see he feels bad. He feels bad about what he did. He feels bad that he changed the map.
And that's a difference. That's a difference from when he sinned earlier in the movie when he lied to Roxanne. You saw none of that.
No guilt.
He was just like, "Cool, no problem," right?
But now he's starting to feel the guilt because
it's that Catholic guilt,
because his relationship with his dad is starting to grow.
Exactly.
He's starting to see the fruits of it. So the guilt starts to come, and then there's this really cool scene where Goofy goes, "You know what? Everyone," he gets attention of the whole restaurant, and he goes, "I'm saying that my son is the navigator of the trip," and he hands him the map. And he goes, "I'm not even going to look at it anymore. You decide where we're going from here." I'm trusting
like,
you.
how could it not be more blatant, you guys? This is incredible. I was floored watching this movie 2 hours ago. I was like, how have I never heard of this? And how do we... Oh my gosh, this was such a powerful scene.
That free will.
Yes.
Here you go.
And the fact that he's so proud of his son that he wants to shout it to the whole world, to the whole diner that's there and says,
my son's the navigator of our trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was really,
and then the look on his face, he's like, you know, like he knows what he did.
Yeah. But it's that moment of just giving us the reins of God. But what I love about the movie too is it's that, and we'll go back to the scenes of when Max wanted away from Goofy, it was, he would always run away. Get away from me. Get away from me. So Goofy gave Max the map. Like, you decide where we're going, but I'm still going with you.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm driving the car. But where do you think is best for us to go?
Yeah.
So then they have this moment where their relationship starts to grow because Max is deciding
montage scene.
Max decides where he wants to go, and they go to the amusement park, and God's there, and he's making the best of it. And he's like, okay, this is fun. Like, what you're choosing, I'm with you. I'm here.
This scene, I think I was saying this when we were watching it. It's the montage scene, and he's doing all of the like wacky, like the amusement park, the wacky
baseball
game, and he's like Goofy. He was like getting sick at one point, like on the amusement park, but he's like, we're doing this, and he went on the rides with him, and he went and he ate the cotton candy and stuff. So it's like
they changed the tire together,
right? So maybe this wasn't we talked about it on our previous episode. You got the beauty, the goodness, and the truth, right? And to lead someone to the truth, so you need to go through the beauty and the goodness. So maybe this wasn't the best way that he would have liked to connect, or I'm trying to think deeper in terms of, but like he was able to reach him on that was Max's level. That was Max's level.
Yes, and it was that point of we make on the churches. It was like we sometimes got to reach people where they are. And Goofy knew, I want to connect with my son. I want to have a relationship with him, so I'm going to connect with him here.
Where he is.
You know, it wasn't a bad thing. He just did what he liked.
Right.
And he was
and
he stuck with him.
Just like I will always come to the defense of playing somewhat modern music, keeping with the traditions, but everyone yells at us for playing modern music. But it's like, if that's where we are, he'll meet you there, and God will encounter you there, and he'll go on that roller coaster of a musical number with you.
Yeah.
There's my analogy.
Okay. Yeah, amazing.
So then, montage over.
So we go through and we have the montage, and then they end up at this diner.
Wait, another diner?
Or the hotel. The hotel.
With fish in the bed.
And fish are in the waterbed, and I thought that's how waterbeds were for years of my life.
They would have been dead.
Yeah. And then we get the return of Pete. Pete shows back up.
Pete the troll, coming back.
They all meet at this diner, and Goofy decides to go to the hot tub like dads do on vacation.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in Goofy and Peter. This
is another really powerful
scene. Like, they're sitting in the hot tub, and Pete overhears Max and his son talking about changing the map, that Max changed the map. He's admitting, hey, I changed the map. So Pete, of course, runs over to go tell Goofy. And he goes and he tells Goofy, hey, you weren't keeping better tabs on your...
As trolls do. Yeah. Tattletale, just stirring it up. They stir it up for no reason, right?
You weren't keeping tabs on your kid, and now, look, he's duping you. We heard that in Scripture. Yeah. He's duping you. And Goofy just goes... I don't believe you. He wants to believe the best in his son. He goes, I don't believe you. I trust my son. And it's and you as the viewer, you go, dang it. Like, you know what Max did. And like, how often do we go where God looks at us and he wants the best in us? I trust you. You can do this. And we sin and sin and sin.
He's like, not my son.
Not my son. No way.
I believe in him. He is good. He or she is good.
So then we have probably the most powerful scene of the movie coming up, where Goofy goes into the car. He goes into the car and he opens the glove box where the map is, and he doesn't want to look. He told Max, I'm not going to look at the map, but the glove box opens the same way it did when Max had the temptation.
Red comes out again.
And you assume, it doesn't show you, but you assume that Goofy looks and sees that Max changed the map. Yeah. And he goes into the room, and Max is like, what's wrong, Dad? Like, what's going on? And Goofy is just so disappointed. Not angry.
Yeah, you can see it on his face.
He's not angry. He's disappointed.
And that's worse. Hurt. That's a worse face than being
he's hurt
than being disappointed.
Because he thought we were having this amazing relationship with his son, and his son was just wasn't quite there yet, you know? So then we get to the next day. where they're driving on the road, and
this is the scene.
They get to a point.
This is the climax of the movie.
This is the pivotal point in the movie, and it was so relatable to our faith because so Goofy is driving, he's got the wheel, Max has got the map. Free will, right?
Open road. There's no traffic. There's no cars.
Which way do we turn? And he's looking at the map. This way is the way that God wants you to go. This is the way that you want to go. There's two different ways.
And he goes, "Which way do you want to go? I will go whichever way you tell me to go."
Yeah.
And Max is like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And it's the music's building, the tension's building. And they're coming to the point when it's like you got to make a decision now, otherwise we're gonna like split right down the middle.
Yeah.
Because the road literally forked. You know, they couldn't make it any more clear. And then
right or left, and Max yells left, and they turn, and it's the way that Max wanted to go, not the way that God wanted to, or Goofy, who we were seeing as God in our moment.
Exactly.
But he chose his own, what he wanted.
And he turned the car to the left. He went.
And God turns, and you can see that moment of just, dang it, like you could.
Yep.
Goofy knew, like, how could you do that? And then they go for a little bit, and Goofy pulls over. And he's disappointed again, and he's like, I don't understand why you're doing this. You know, I trusted you with the map. You know, and they have this scene where then Max kind of goes, you know, they have a back and forth, and Max kind of goes, you know, I'm sorry, Dad. I just, you know, and then they have then the car. They didn't put the parking brake on the car. So right before they're about to have this
life lessons in this movie as well, guys.
The car goes, and they oh no, and they chase the car, and the car falls in the river.
And there's a scene where they're like bounding on top of it's still a cartoon,
of course.
So,
but what happens in this scene. There's a line in this scene that's very important. So they're bounding around in the car, and then they figure out they're going to be fine, and they're sailing down the water, and they're
on top of the car.
Yeah, and Goofy's saying like, I wanted you to be there for me. Like I wanted us to go on this trip together. And Max is like, I want to have my own life. I want to have my own life. I'm a grown up, and I want to have my own life. Like I want to do what I want to do. And Goofy says this, and this is probably the most powerful line in the whole movie. Is he goes, I know you're your own person. And I know you have your own life, but I want to be a part of it.
Woo.
And that's
you guys, are you kidding me? A Goofy movie?
And that's
a Goofy movie?
And that's
wow.
How much in our life we go, God, I want to do what I want to do. I want to chase my dreams. I want to follow my passions. I want to be this person that fulfills. And God just goes, I know.
Awesome.
I just want to be part of it.
Yeah. Because essentially Max was after connecting. He goes, Dad, I love you, but stay over there.
Yeah.
Dad, I love you, but stay over there. I don't want you to see what I'm doing. I don't want you to be a part of it. And he just wants to be there with him. He wants to love his son, and he wants that love back. He
wants to be
but
part
freely.
of your life. Yeah. It's so cool. So then they have this whole big, long, crazy thing, and Goofy falls off the waterfall.
Wait, no. They sing a song before that. They sing a song before then. This is an important, and I got this again from Sideways. Great channel, you guys. If you like music and you like musicals and Disney, check out the channel Sideways. It's a musical channel. Okay, so when there's so many layers to this movie, you guys. When we were talking about the open road song from earlier, the villain song, essentially, as far as the themes go, when they were singing each of their lines, they weren't in sync. Goofy would sing a line, and then Max would sing.
They never sang together.
It was out of time. They weren't seeing eye to eye, right? But they weren't on the same level. They weren't on the same page. And then when they had this moment, this encounter on the water, then they started singing, because this is a musical, sort of. It's loose music. There's a few songs.
It's a Disney movie,
right? So. They started singing, and now they were singing in perfect harmony together.
Yeah. Yeah. And they... So anyways, and then they go over there's a whole big thing where Max comes clean about what his intentions were, of why he lied, why he didn't want to go on the trip. He tells him everything. Dad, I wanted to be with this girl, and I wanted this, and I wanted that. And he tells God what he wanted in his life. And then what Goofy does, or he tells Goofy. I keep saying God because that's where we.
It's fine. They're essentially interchangeable for almost the entire movie. Yeah. Some places it falls apart, but almost the entire movie.
So he tells Goofy, I this is what I wanted, and Goofy just goes, okay, well, let's do that. Let me help you. Let me help you get to where you want to go. Let me help you do that. You don't need to lie. You don't need to do it. You don't need to do it the other way. Let's get you to because Max goes, I wanted to go to the concert to impress her or whatever, and Goofy goes, okay, let's get you to that concert. I'll help you.
Yeah.
And it's like, Oh, if you had just come clean and said, hey, Dad, I need your help. God, what do I do? If it's us going to God and saying, God, I need help with this. If it's God's will, God will go, okay, let me help.
Right. And if it's something, a lot of like Powerline, the group, his desire to, fit in and stand out and be part of the crowd and stuff, that's him being pulled away from God. And that's as a negative. We want to be pulled towards God, right? But once we like include God in our plans, he goes, let me take all that was negative, all that was for bad.
And you felt you needed to hide.
And I'm going to turn it around and make it good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change what was bad into good. That contradiction, like we couldn't have imagined that what was evil could be used for such great things.
And so then we get to the point in the movie because Max's intention at the beginning was to go to the concert. Just to go to it.
Yeah.
Okay? And then when Goofy and him go to the concert.
Wait, what about the perfect cast at the end?
I mean, I guess that's not really that's
it's a great moment.
It's a great moment where Goofy falls off the waterfall and Max does the perfect cast to save him.
Right.
But watch the movie, it's great. But so then they get to the end. They get to the concert, and as you were saying before, Max wanted to just go. He just wanted to go to the concert so he could hopefully get seen on TV. And what Goofy does is, by the crazy antics that they all get in their relationship, he ends up on stage at the concert. Goofy and Max end up on stage with Powerline at the concert. And they're on TV, and he fulfilled his plan, and
he fulfilled the lie, but in like the best. And then he turned that horrible lie into something really great.
But both of them fulfilled. Max got to stand out, if you will, but not as Powerline, as Max. And then Goofy had this amazing moment with his son. He got to bond with his kid and have this incredible memory that they're never going to have. They worked together and had that amazing relationship.
What I like about when Goofy was the first to get on stage, he did it in a goofy way, right? But he gets on stage and he starts doing the cast thing, and it ends up being a dance, and it turns into a dance. But Goofy is the one that encouraged Max to come out on the stage, right?
Well, Max falls, but yeah, kind of.
Right, but he was the first one, and he wasn't ashamed. Basically, like, God's going to come into our lives. He's going to come into...
Yeah, keep going.
He's going to come into this world and get messy with us, and he's going to encourage us to come outside and get outside of our comfort zone. And
yeah, what was really cool about it is that point of getting out of the comfort zone. But it was that when Goofy got on stage, right, the cool hip pop star, the thing that everybody thought was not God, or that was like that everybody was emulating, Goofy did his Goofy dance. And the pop star wanted to be like Goofy.
And they started doing his dance.
And he started doing his dance. So it was more like...
You guys, there's so much here.
Like the thing that Max was so anti. I don't want to be anything like you at the beginning. It was literally my nightmare to be like my father. My father and his goofiness, in this sense of the movie, ended up giving me the fulfillment of everything I wanted. By his example.
And she said 1 billion people watched you on TV.
Yeah.
Is there
we're 1 million or something?
I think she said 1 billion when he went back home to see Max. What's her face?
I can't remember.
She said 1 billion people saw. Isn't there 1 billion Catholics in the world?
Oh,
there's something to that there.
But regardless, it wasn't oh, let's get on stage and be like the pop star. It was got on stage and the pop star was like them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like Eye to Eye is beautiful. The song is awesome because it's just about seeing each other.
That's that thing though. What I talked about on our last one of our episodes. When you evangelize, the best and most effective way to evangelize is to walk through their door.
Yeah.
If you try to pull them kicking and screaming in your door, which he tried to do, it didn't work. But at the end, he comes through your door. He meets you in that secular song. But everybody ends up emulating him and doing their dance, and they all walk out your door, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this song is amazing. Eye to Eye. The
awesome
singer,
song.
oh my gosh, unbelievable.
So the climax of the movie is, so they have this whole thing, and it's hip hop hooray, and then he goes back to talk to Roxanne again. And as he's gonna get out of the car, he heads to Goofy. He goes, "Well, I got to tell her the truth. And what if she never wants to talk to me again?" And Goofy, he goes, well, anybody that doesn't want to, they can't see you for you or doesn't forgive you or anything because you don't want in your life anyway. And he implies that importance of telling the truth. And so Max goes and he tells the truth. And he goes, "I just wanted you to like me, so I dressed up as Powerline. I did this whole thing." And Roxanne just goes, "Max, I liked you from the first time I heard you laugh." You know, when he did his goofy laugh. So this whole movie, this whole part of Max was him trying to figure out who he was. And the thing that he was so afraid of becoming was like his father. And instead, the whole point of the movie, the thing he wanted most, he had all along. He just had to be himself, be who he was created to be. In this movie, it's a goof because he was the goof.
Goof represents God, and he had that goof inside him all along. He was trying to hide it.
He was trying to
hide that godliness inside of him.
But everything he wanted came from just being who he was called to be. The girl liked him for who he was. He achieved his big goal by being who he was. Connects with his dad by being who he was. And the whole movie, all the goofy in this movie, or the God character, in our opinion, is just trying to be in his life and show him that he loved him the whole movie, and ends up teaching him that all along, like he was there all along. Being who you are was there all along.
And he didn't do that by puppeteering. He didn't do that by having him under his thumb, as Pete would say,
nope.
As these trolls, as these people that think they know better.
Yeah.
Right? He did it by just showing that love, that never-ending love, that unrelenting love.
Yeah. Goofy stayed by Max's side the whole movie. Even when he wronged him, when Max betrayed him, when Max turned away from him, when Max ran from him, Goofy always stayed by his side, always saw the best in him, always loved him, always forgave him.
Allowed him to make decisions that he knew weren't the best for him.
Yeah.
And he was disappointed, he was upset, but he never stopped loving him and he never left his side.
Yeah.
This is an amazing movie, you guys.
Unreal movie.
I cannot believe that it doesn't have more. It had like 58% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that.
I know.
People do not know what they're missing. But again, people don't know what they're looking for.
That's what it is.
People don't know how to see God in the world. And I think that they knew what they were doing. Obviously, the themes were there, but whether or not they chose specific Catholic values and themes in this, here's the deal. There's Catholic truths in the world, whether or not people even know that they're Catholic, because a truth is truth.
Absolutely.
Right? And so whether or not they were writing it with pure Catholic intentions, those truths still ring.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's absolutely the case. So you know what, guys? This was our first. That's how it goes. Highly recommend watching the movie. Watch it with a Catholic lens. Watch it going, okay, I heard these. If you haven't seen it and then and you're listening to this, go check it out after now hearing all of the ways that we saw God in it. If you have watched it, do you agree? Were there things that we missed where you saw God or things like that? This was something we wanted to try. We wanted to analyze a movie and find God in the unexpected. So
thank goodness you have such a great memory and you've seen it so many times.
It's one of my favorite movies.
I'll just chime in when I can. But I think it's just a reminder that we need to look for God, not just in the movies, not in the music that we listen to, not in our churches, but everywhere. At the person in back of us in line at Starbucks, at the person across from us at the gas station, our family member at our Labor Day. Is this Labor Day coming up? Labor Day. At the Labor Day barbecue, COVID safe. With the mask on. I don't know. But you can find God everywhere in this world because those truths are out there. The truth is in this world. God's truth is always ever abundant in our lives. We just have to search for it. We have to actively look to be a goof.
Yeah.
That's the thesis of this episode is be goofs, you guys.
Yeah.
Be a goof. Do not hide it. Let that goofy laugh come out, because God will always be with us, and he will always love us no matter what stupid route we take.
Yep. He's
driving this car with us, but he ultimately wants the best from us, and we'll achieve that best if we just learn to be goofy.
Yep. Amazing. All right, guys, that's the podcast.
Comment in what other movies you'd like us to do.
Yeah.
Whether it's cartoons, it's
Christian movies,
rated R, violent movies.
Any movie.
Bishop Barron does those. He finds Catholic values in those as well. You
Absolutely.
can do it. And then, as always, find us on social media. Instagram _2 Catholic Dudes, Facebook 2 Catholic Dudes, Patreon. We so thank all of our patrons for their gracious support. We couldn't continue to do this without them, and we encourage you to, if you have the opportunity, to please support us so we can continue to grow our channel. And reach out to us, hit those likes, the bells, all the subscriptions, because that helps the algorithm for people to find us.
And and we had Leo on the podcast just earlier today. I don't know when that episode will air, but he said something that really stuck with us, and it was that maybe you were watching this episode, or you're hearing something. Tuesday Thought of Some of the Week, something that you're like, yeah, that's cool and all, but it just doesn't really resonate with me. Please share it. Share it with someone who it might, because it may not be for you, but it might be for somebody else. So please feel free to share. Let us know.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it. We appreciate you riding along with us.
Yeah.
Go check out the movie. And as always, we will see you next week.
Peace.